Welcome to I'm From the Internet, a podcast about somethingawful.com, the goons, and their consequences. I am Chicago illustrator Winslow Domain, and I'm sitting here with internet historian Jay Brandstetter. Jay, how have you been, man?
Oh, things have been doing pretty good. Fred is mostly almost back to normal. We actually went out again today for the first time in about a month, so that was fun. Just went out thrifting to get him some more clothes, and on the show side, I'm pretty excited for some upcoming episodes that we have. I've been finishing a big one that's been taking a while, so now I'm really excited for the ones we have coming up. I have some fun contacts I've been talking to about it.
Yeah, I like to keep myself a bit ignorant over what we're covering. I do know a couple of the names have come up a lot, so I know that those are going to be pretty big, and we have some fun guests that are going to pop on here and there in the future. Before we started talking, you said that you make Frederick a thick Gatorade concoction. Is that right?
Yes, I do actually make thick Gatorade on a daily basis. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, it's because part of the thing is he needs to get more fiber, so every day I make him orange Gatorade is his favorite. So I take a little orange Gatorade and I pour half of it into a measuring cup, and then I put about 30 milliliters of Benefiber in there, and then I just shake it up and fill it the rest of the way back up. And yeah, it is super thick. Like if you've ever seen the movie Knives Out, the way she can tell medicine by their thickness, that's how I can tell the Gatorades in the fridge. I'm like, okay, this is a thick fiber Gatorade. This one isn't.
Oh yeah. There was a minute there where I thought all my problems would be solved by getting more like powdered fiber. And that stuff, it makes the drink so insanely thick. Just after I put in like 2 little capfuls into like a tall glass of water or a tall glass of whatever, and like it just turned into this totally noxious sludge instantly. So I fucking hats off to Brennan for that, because I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. He eats a lot of processed food, so he likes that. I don't nag him about what he eats. I just try and find ways for him to eat things that are good for him. So I try. That's one of my ways of punching that up with that. Is I put fiber in a lot of his drinks to help him with that. He says I'm a very good caretaker, which makes me feel really good. So that's actually one of the things I'm going to be working on. Maybe is trying to get my home health care aid license or certificate or whatever. That might be a thing I might try and get in the future. So it's fun to think I'm still doing professional development.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, like it's like when your kids learn swears, even though you're not specifically teaching them swears. It's like you're always learning stuff. You're always growing in different ways. So that's good to hear, man. I just did. God, I'm so fucking tired. I just drove to Richmond for the Oddities and Curiosities Expo out there. And that was like a 13-hour drive through just like slashing rainstorms and like multiple tornado sirens that would like interrupt the audiobook.
Oh, geez.
And then we did the show and it was fine. Like I did fine. The show was, the shows are always great, but like, however I do, I did fine. And then drove 13 hours back one day. So, one day of 13 hours, 2 days of show, 13-hour drive back. Wow. So I am fucking cooked, man. It's nice to just be sitting. But yeah. I did read a book that you might like, called Banvard's Folly.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's a very specific subject. It's 13 stories of obscure people who thought they were going to change the world and failed.
Oh yeah, that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, and the thing is like I've listened to so much Behind the Bastards and so many hours of like The Dollop and so many of these other podcasts that are just about like stories you didn't know. I've been a reader of Cracked for forever, and it's all just like digging up old stories, right? And somehow this guy wrote 12 of the 13 stories I had never heard of in my entire life. And they were like huge deals, and really well written, really interesting, comprehensively researched. And yeah, they were just fucking fascinating. Like one of them was this guy who, it was Banvard, who was this not great painter, kind of a turn of the century painter, and he was not good at details or portraits. But what he did do was he got a custom made canvas, and he floated a raft down the Mississippi, and he just painted the scenes that he saw on a single contiguous 3-mile long canvas.
Wow.
And then would perform it. Like he would he would have to be on 2 giant spinning wheels that would slowly reveal
I
more
had
and
one
more
of those
the
when I was
canvas.
a kid. Like we'd have the big sheet of paper you could draw on and just roll it.
Yeah. And it became like ludicrously successful. He went from being like a nobody to like being like a very, like he was one of the most famous artists in the world for a time. He performed like, because he would orate while he showed off the painting, and he would tell a 2-hour-long story of his journey down the Mississippi. So it was like going to a movie in a sense.
He was doing whiteboard videos before that was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting and became massively successful. There were tons of other people like claimants to the throne. There's one person who's like, I made a 4-mile long canvas of the Mississippi and mine's the real one. And like, there's so many other people that tried to fuck with him, but his was really like, it was very true. And like, he had a lot of momentum and he didn't take it sitting down. Like he went to the Nile and he did one of like the land of the pharaohs, and he did one of the Nile, and he got all these trinkets and stuff like that. Takes all this money, builds this huge castle, and a castle so big that they called it Banvard's Folly, the name of the book.
That's
and
great.
Then P.T. Barnum in town. P.T. Barnum has this massive museum with all of the crazy, goofy, forgeries and frauds, and like the Ripley's Believe It or Not bullshit that we all know P.T. Barnum for, right? Freak show stuff.
Yeah.
And his museum burns to the ground. The only exhibit that is saved from the fire is his pet seal. Completely set to the ground, and so now there's this opening where they need a very unique, eclectic museum. And Banvard's like, well, I've been collecting things during all of my travels. I am an international success. People love these rotating paintings that I have. Everybody knows about it. So he builds this massive museum with dedicated halls just for the paintings and storytelling and all of the artifacts that he's collected over the years. And it shows up. It doesn't do terribly well. P.T. Barnum builds a better, bigger museum faster. And then Banvard, his museum lasts, I think, like 6 months, maybe. Then closes up its doors forever. And then basically he just kind of secludes himself into his mansion for a while. And what's crazy is that he dies basically penniless and unknown. And the paintings that made him huge were reportedly just shredded and used to insulate houses.
Oh, wow.
Completely erased by time. Huge name. Completely forgotten.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I'm definitely going to check that out, especially if broken up. I guess since this is a Patreon episode, we can be a little more loose. I do want to say one that makes me think of in St. Augustine in Florida, near where I grew up. Someone built a castle in the 70s. Like they just built a castle. And like the way they got away with this, because it's Florida, they just said it was a garage. Like that was the use they claimed for it. So someone built this like not historically accurate, but like a castle-ass castle, like several stories tall with turrets, and that's all. I can't remember the exact lore. I was trying to look it up, but it's hard. There's actual historical castles in St. Augustine too, because it's like the oldest city in America. Like that was settled by Europeans, so it's hard to look up. But just weird bit of Florida, texture there.
Yeah, what's the legal definition of a castle though?
That's a good question. What's castle zoning like in your area?
Yeah, does it like, can your house have crenellations?
Check your local siege laws.
Can you have like a convenience store with like arrow slits for like when crime gets really bad?
you go there and instead of the bulletproof glass, it's like an old turret like slit out like that. Yeah. The guy's just there with like a crossbow. Like, all right, put the money where I can see it, buddy.
The guy comes by to like do the inspection on your house, and you're like, man, this oubliette has not been inspected in years, and it's just like the little dark trapdoor thing, and yeah. What's the murder hole law? That's funny.
That's great. Yeah. Well, here, I guess kind of, so today's bonus episode, I wrote this one after we did the Scott Cawthon episode, because that one was all about someone's political outings being exposed in the gaming world. And this was the first thing that came to mind. And I'm glad I did it, because a lot of people, when I was writing it, I posted about it, a lot of people didn't know about this. So I think it's kind of one of those fun things to dig up for maybe younger or less plugged in people, because it is a very funny wrinkle on what was otherwise like one of like the Mount Rushmore of like Western gaming and like that generation, like one of the big figures.
Yeah.
It's very fun. So
I mean, Will Wright is like, I remember he was just like such a genius, and like such a unique kind of game dev that we just don't seem to see anymore. Who, like, cause he was like so forward thinking in like designing so many things where like everybody else at the time, you know, not everybody else, I'm sure there's a complicated history to it, but like a lot of people at the time were designing games that are just like, all right, you're an action man with a gun, or it's a series of puzzles, or whatever. And his was just like, what if you're an ant and you have to manage an ant colony, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, what if you were I had Sim Park, where you had to like manage the kudzu in your theme in your nature reserve, and then I played it at my friend Jake's house, and we filled the map with gazebos, and that was just like, if you had enough money to get a gazebo, you would get regular gazebo rental checks, and we just like we set the game to run, build a ton of fucking gazebos everywhere. And this was back when the thing about SimCity and The Sims is that there's like order to it, where like you have roads that connect things and stuff like that. Sim Park was just like, you have this square of a grid and you just put shit in places and animals will just wander around. It was very fucking lawless. And yeah, we built all the gazebos, and then we like went to play outside or whatever, and we came back, or maybe we went to bed. We did something where we just let the game run for a while, and we came back to just like fundamentally limitless amounts of money from the gazebo rentals, and our park was a complete fucking disaster. We had all the money, all of our animals were dead, everything was overgrown with kudzu. Every advisor in the game was like, you have to stop this, but we had all of these gazebos.
I would quit if I was programmed too.
Yeah. So,
oh,
he's a very interesting guy.
Yeah, like before we get into my notes, like that's one thing about that first generation of big names in game development I think is really interesting, is that since gaming was new, there were people from other disciplines that got into gaming, like Shigeru Miyamoto, the guy who created Mario. Like he wanted to be like a mangaka. He wanted to make like manga or work in animation. Mm-hmm. You know, like the guy who made Deus Ex, Warren Spector. He was like a history major who studied animation history, and like the guy Will Wright, he was like an engineer. He was like we're going to go into his notes here. I have his notes about his background, but yeah, the sort of kicking off event of this, like I alluded to, was in 2008. There was the presidential election between Obama and McCain in America, and video gaming was. Sorry, I'll get my notes. Let me start that over. I'm going to be editing this one too, probably. So it's cool. Yeah. So let's go with my notes here. Yeah. So, like, as an internet historian, I find the 2008 U.S. presidential election between Barack Obama and John McCain to be super interesting, because it was the first election to happen after social media proliferated. all the old presidential campaign websites are publicly archived by the Library of Congress. And so you can look them up whenever you want. And if you look at what campaigns looked like before 2008, they were very dry and informative. Like, I pulled up the 2004 campaign website for John Kerry, who was the Democratic nominee in the election before that. And it's like very Web 1.0. It's just like, it's like information. There's directories of like their plan.
I love this.
Yeah, it's very informative. It's like what the internet used to be like. You know.
You're right, and it just like, I have somewhere deep in my old computer, I have screenshots of what Manson USA used to look like, which was like lots of links. Everybody loves links. The internet, like, you had a whole sidebar of like pictures, videos, discography, lyrics, essays, all of the stuff, and like tour dates and all of these just shit everywhere. Like band member bios, news, what's his most recent post. And it was just information dense. I look at this website and I'm like, okay, what's John Kerry have to say about education? Boom, click, link right there, education. It'll take me right to the thing. Yeah. And now when you look at campaign websites, like if you fucking look at Harris's website right now, there's no policy on it. It's just give me money.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I also dug up the Obama website from 2008. So 4 years later, the first page.
Oh, man.
Yeah, give us your email address and your zip code so we can sign you up for our mailing list.
Yeah, and it's literally just a picture of the Obama family, and it's just like, join the movement, give me your email and zip code. That's it.
Yeah, and then the bottom in small text says, skip sign up and go to the website. Like, just how it went from being a place that you present information to a place where you harvest information. Yeah,
it's like, well, that's the thing is the Republicans in the 80s realized the, like, godlike power of having a active mailing list. That was one of the things that like Phyllis Schlafly and Rush Limbaugh and a lot of the big movers and shakers, especially in like the evangelical right, they would sign up everybody's address to get, I mean, just stupendous amounts of mail. And this is back in the day when we were not completely inundated with like constant information, right? Because this is probably even before like 24-hour news. And so like right now, just for instance, yesterday I got 2 emails from Panera. I went to Panera, I got something to eat, and then I got 3 more emails from Panera asking me about what I got, asked me to review it, and then another email that was just like another offer. 5 emails from a sandwich shop, right? And it's like right now, in the course of us recording this, I've gotten like 3 more emails from bullshit that I don't need. Every time I order something, I get like 4 or 5 new emails. It's just constant. So there was a time back in the day, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, when like if you got a letter, you'd be like, huh, I got a letter. You would open it up and read it. Yeah, dude, I get letters from my dad, who I love and adore, and I'll just like put it down on my desk and read it a day later. Because like, you have to know, I get dozens and dozens and dozens of like DMs every morning, and then even more emails and even more texts, and it's like completely overwhelming. So this harkens back to a time when like it was just before the utter information overload, and like an email address or a physical mailing address was the most important thing you could get from a person.
Yeah, and it's funny because mailing lists are really big again now because they're like one of the ways of like getting in touch with people. That's why almost any time you play like an indie game or something, they'll want to get your email or have you sign up to play it because they want to build a mailing list. Like, I guess it kind of makes me also think of like in comedy, like in the 2010s, how Louis C.K. kind of functioned like that because everyone bought his like specials and stuff. So whenever he had released something, he'd put out an email and then millions of people would know about it. Like that's like an ecosystem.
I'm on that list.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's Patton Oswalt did the same thing. And a fun through line is that Patton Oswalt had a mailing list. I was on it. He didn't send out a lot of stuff. But at one point in time, he sent out an email and said, I'm no longer having Kyle Kinane open for me. Here's why. And then the email was like, I've had Kinane opening for me for like years now. He's just too fucking funny. He's blowing me out at my shows. He's so good. Everybody needs to see him. He's doing his own headlining shows because he's just released his album. I clicked the album. I listened to it. I loved it. I fell in love with the whole medium. And I already really liked comedy, obviously, but Kinane was the guy that made me want to do comedy at all. And yeah, because of the mailing list. So like it had material impact in the world, right?
Yeah.
But it was just so much more. So much more than that, right?
Yeah, just so much more ways, yeah. And so, like, also 2008 was a big election because that was when politics and gaming started interacting more. You know, video games were a $22 billion a year industry just in America at that point. Like, it was big enough to have its own lobbying group, the Entertainment Software Association. The hot coffee controversy had happened since 2004, so gaming was becoming more political because they'd been kind of dragged into the spotlight again. And the Obama campaign even went out of their way to target gamers. When I was researching this,
targeted gamers.
They targeted gamers. Brackets positive.
Yeah,
yeah. Just like they bought billboards and like EA games. You'd be playing a racing game, there'd be an Obama Biden like ad in it. Just that was a very fun sort of time capsule of where we were. The idea of advertising in video games was something that still made headlines. It was something you bragged about as like a cool new thing you were doing instead of like a secret you didn't want people to know about.
Right. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah. And yeah, so in the late 2000s was also when games journalism really started to expand its breadth beyond hobbyist product reviews and entertainment news to more critical industry coverage. A good chunk of that is because, it was the internet. Before this, games journalism was mostly in magazines. They were done by publishers that had to deal with advertisers. Like, the one I used to subscribe to is Electronic Gaming Monthly, and one of the reasons I like them is because they would call out the publishers that blacklisted them for negative reviews. Like, Ubisoft stopped sending them review copies because they gave Assassin's Creed a 7 out of 10, like, stuff like that.
No, EGM was tight, man. God, that takes me back. Everybody who worked at EGM I would love to interview them for this podcast, because they were all so fucking cool.
Yeah, and that's probably very achievable because a lot of those people got into podcasting when writing sort of dried up. Like I used to listen to a Games Radar guy's podcasts. Like it's neat how that whole industry kind of transitioned into an audio medium.
Yeah, I still the comic at the back of the magazine, Shu and Chan, is still like permanently altered the way that I talk, Yeah,
and the guy who makes it, he started making new ones and even makes little like YouTube videos where he like kind of does like little paper doll cutouts and does little videos where it's like Sue and Chan talking about new games. It's neat to see him brushing that off again. His art's still really good.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's so good, man.
Yeah, Sean Baby also wrote for them for a while too.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, they were so fucking funny.
Yeah, I think like the perfect example of where we are in 2008 is that this is when Kotaku was blowing up, and this is when the guy who founded Giant Bomb was getting fired from GameStop because he gave Ken and Lynch a bad review. Like that's where gaming journalism was around this time.
Yeah, and now obviously there's a lot of it's a lot of games journalism has matured, despite the kicking and screaming of gamers at large. But, yeah, and so now we are at the point of, like, it is much more dedicated to discussing, like, more political issues without doing it in the most, like, asinine way possible that we were doing it in the 2010s. Where, the peak of political comedy was, like, the South Park movie or Team America World Police, like, where it's just puppets shitting and pissing on Osama bin Laden. Yeah, so as games matured, so did the media that covered them, because I don't think that you can really give a standard do the guns feel good kind of game review to like The Last of Us or to like Plague Tale or whatever, like there's these games that are like, if you just look at it as like, is it a good like run and gun video game? Maybe not, but like you just have to review stuff like Stanley Parable. You can't review that like a normal video game.
The guns are awful in this game.
Yeah, right? Like there's something else going on. Like, it'd be like, imagine reviewing Spec Ops: The Line, but never mentioning the story. Where it's like, yeah, it was cool, the guns were cool, the graphics were good, it was 8 out of 10, it was cool. What's the game about? I don't know. I skipped all the cutscenes.
Yeah, I think it was glitching out. I kept seeing my guys' faces on the enemies. It was really weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why all the terrorists wearing American armor. Like, that's weird, right? I hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Yeah, I think they used the temp track. Everyone speak with American accents. Lame.
Yeah, that's so funny. Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess like one of the breakouts from this time was a site called gamespolitics.com. Just like Wikipedia summarized it. Like, it was founded by a freelance journalist named Dennis McCauley. And the idea was he was a games journalist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And he was kind of bored writing about just like, how does it feel to play? How's this? I want to write more about the critical stuff. So he started gamespolitics.com's. One of the things that kind of blew him up was when Hot Coffee happened. He was one of the people who was writing about it, who was qualified to write about both games and like journalism stuff. And so he kind of blew up from there. And that was his website, gamespolitics.com. I actually went in the archive and dug up a classic screenshot of it here, since we're talking about old websites.
Yeah. Oh, well, one of the images on the website is an American flag dual shock controller, but it looks like kind of like a Mad Catz controller. That doesn't look.
Yeah, that's like the controller they steered that submarine with. It's not an officially licensed controller.
Oh man.
Oh god, that was a really depressing thing I learned from Fred. Is think about how when you have a little brother, they get the bad controller. When you're like the foster kid, you get the really bad controller.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do like. Gamepolitics.com, where politics and video games collide. First article, is PWND or pwned a word? Hasbro versus Scrabulous court documents.
Yeah, and I actually read that. That was actually a pretty interesting article. Scrabulous was like a Facebook knockoff of Scrabble, and it was Hasbro trying. And one of the arguments was about like the dictionary and stuff. But yeah, that headline was so funny. That's why I included it in there.
That's funny.
Yeah, and also just to give you, where we were, they had an article in October of that year, Game Biz types leaning towards Obama. And the article was where they used publicly available records to dig up political donations from big names in the gaming industry. And,
okay,
I'm going to go
makes
here.
Sense.
Yeah, and so most of them were Democratic contributors. Like looking through, you recognize like there's Sam Houser, the president of Rockstar, Richard Garriott, Lord British from Ultima, Gabe Newell. Yeah, he donated to Dodd, which is funny. And then
George Lucas.
Yeah, George Lucas donated a lot. And the only 3 Republican contributors they found were Kurt Schilling from 38 Studios, which is, does that name mean anything to you? Since you're not as much of a gaming industry psycho as I was. Yeah. Basically, his story is very funny. He was a Major League Baseball guy who convinced the state of Rhode Island to subsidize a game studio, and he got like a bunch of tax money to make this PC game that basically it was like there was a bunch of like graft involved. There like people got arrested over it. I think it was really funny and a huge blow up that happened a few years after this. So of course he donated to McCain, and
that kind of rips.
And the second
Bobby
one is
Kotick. Of course, it's Bobby Kotick. God.
Oh yeah, this is 2008. This is when EA was still like the big bad game company. This was a few years before everyone started like hating Activision as the big one. But yeah, Bobby Kotick right there. And then right at the top is Will Wright, Spore in The Sims, $3,000 to McCain. Previously donated $2,350 to Giuliani. So
what's funny about that? I mean, there's a lot of things that are funny about that, but the games that they list for Will Wright are The Sims, which I mean, if you don't know about The Sims, I don't know what to tell you. It's a game where you control people and you live their lives, and they have you make a lot of choices. You build the houses, you fill the houses with things, you build relationships. The whole game is just like you are playing a living person's life forever.
Honestly, this might be a good time for us to talk about his games, but since we're doing that, But
the other game that he has is Spore, which could have been very good. It was extraordinarily ambitious, like a singularly ambitious game. I mean, this is like on the scale of a fully scientifically accurate dragon MMO, which we will cover at some point in time, I'm sure. Long story short, there was I think it was a Something Awful poster, a one-person game dev trying to make an MMO about scientifically accurate fire-breathing dragons, which, what the fuck does any of that mean? Anyways, but he made Spore, which is a game where you start off as a single cellular organism, and you you eat little bits of plant matter or maybe little bits of other organisms, and you work your way up to be a multicellular organism, and eventually you crawl out and you have like an extremely rudimentary like amphibious creature, and then you eventually evolve more pieces of yourself, and you develop whole communities, and then you put together eventually a society as you evolve more and more into a more intelligent, complex being, and then you become like nation states that are ruling this world, and eventually you become interstellar and you're exploring the star systems, and that is a whole game based on something most Republicans think is heresy. You know what I mean? Like, he's donating to people who are like, they look at the subject matter of his games, and not only do they not care what games are, but they're just like, yeah, well, that's not in the Bible, so go fuck yourself.
Yeah, it is very funny that you mentioned that, because this is one of the things about Spore that kind of annoys me, is like, it's a game about evolution, but at the beginning of the game, life just already exists and arrives on the planet on a meteor. They didn't want to actually have a life evolve out of nothing, so like, it's almost like that was his compromise.
Right, I mean, like, because he went for like it's the panspermia route.
Yeah.
Because the game starts with an asteroid hitting a planet, and then you build yourself up from there. Yeah, so there's a lot to it. It was a fun, interesting game, and like, by God, I wish they would have done literally anything else with that name. They made like a couple other weird games out of that franchise, but they'll never be a Spore 2, unfortunately.
Yeah. Because we're going to talk, that studio doesn't exist anymore. We're going to talk a little about that at the end of the notes. But yeah, I guess like what we're talking about Will Wright and his games, that was one of the things about Spore that was really neat, was it was kind of the culmination of his career, because his first big game was SimCity. And like the creation of SimCity was that he was trying to make like a military type game. And when he was making the maps for it, he was like, this is fun. This could be a game in and of itself. And then he wound up making SimCity, where the original one, you didn't even get it was just like blocks, and you put the blocks down, you'd zone areas, stuff would build in it, you build roads. And it was very mature and sophisticated for an 80s PC game. And that was kind of his niche, was these like mature, but also kind of like universally, like people who didn't like video games liked SimCity because it was something that was understandable and it was vaguely educational. Like I didn't know what city zoning was until I played SimCity as a kid.
And it had a sense of humor. It wasn't like all strictly like, bureaucracy and stuff like that. Like,
Godzilla could attack your city. Like not legally distinct Godzilla.
Right. But 98% of the game was pretty straight up and down. It's about roads and taxes and being the mayor of a city who like controls how the city is built. And so it's very dry, but it's like a very open-ended puzzle that was really good. And they made SimCity, and then eventually SimCity 2000, which is, I think a lot of people would say, their magnum opus. That was like one of their biggest selling games they've ever made, for the time. Obviously, The Sims and The Sims 3 were huge as well, but that was by the time he was acquired by EA, right? But the SimCity reboot, which have we talked about that, or is that
we
on
haven't
your
talked
list
about
yet?
It's not on my notes, so by all means, let's have some fun with that.
Okay, it's one of those things where like I love video games. I don't play a lot of them because I'm so busy being so handsome and successful, and so I care so much more about the culture that creates them. I'm like super pumped about a few things that are coming out: Stalker, Space Marine 2, a bunch of other things, Silent Hills, all of that stuff. But this is one of those things where like if I have a non-gaming friend, I'm like, you have to watch this YouTube video about the rise and fall of SimCity because it's fascinating. It's a game that made every possible bad choice and you see this a lot with The Sims, and SimCity, and with a lot of these games that have a very long post-release life, right? So one of the big things about The Sims 1, it started with The Sims 1, was every Wednesday you could go to thesims.com and download a new item and install it to your game for free. It was modding before modding was a thing, and you could, every Wednesday you'd get a new fucking thing to put into your house, a cuckoo clock on the wall that would have some cool functionality. It was their way of continuously adding tons of stuff to the game. And by the time The Sims 2 came out, they had added hundreds of items to this game. And so it was just like so much stuff, a huge variety. And then The Sims 2 comes out, and your inventory of potential items is suddenly dropped back down to the base level of a vanilla, unmodified day one release, right? So you're going from this huge variety to very, very little variety, right? They update a bunch of other stuff. There's other new things and there's new ways of playing the game, but you're getting the culmination of 4 years of work rather than the culmination of 10 years of work, right?
Yeah.
And they did the same thing with not only do they have things that you can download from the website, they had huge DLCs, and The Sims 1 had like these big DLC packs with hundreds of items and new locations and types of things that you could do. Your characters could be like a mad scientist and make love potions and be a witch and all sorts of weird shit.
When I was in high school, once I knew someone who gave a copy of The Sims Hot Date to their girlfriend for Valentine's Day. Like,
that's great.
Yeah, just cute stuff like that.
And so like when The Sims 3 came out, boy fucking howdy, they added so much stuff through DLC. So you buy the base game for, I believe, like $50 or $60, and then they would have these big add-ons for it that varied in size and varied in quality, that were like 10, 15, $20 that you would add on, and they did tons of them. So if you had them all, like if you add all of them to your cart on Steam, it's hundreds of dollars. And it's thousands and thousands and thousands of items and things that you can do in the game. It's huge, right? And then Sims 4 comes out, back to the vanilla, back to the base game. All that stuff doesn't carry over, right? So keep that in mind. When I can't remember I think it was SimCity 4.
Yeah, SimCity 4 was the last. That was a big part of it too, because we hadn't had a SimCity game in over a decade. The last one was like early 2000, and it was in 2D. That was kind of one of the things, was they spent a lot of time and money trying to make a 3D SimCity, and we're like, we can't get this to work with the technology we have, so it's going to be 2D. So that was part of the 2013 SimCity, was finally it's in 3D. You know. Yes.
So they made SimCity 4, and the beauty of SimCity is not in like the wacky adventures that your Sims can do, but it's like a very technically adept game. Like you're figuring out train timing and overpasses and taxes and like statistics and stuff like that. It's like a game for nerds that play like Factorio and stuff, and it's fun. It's not necessarily my cup of tea. I like Factorio, but SimCity wasn't necessarily my thing, right? And so I could be wrong here, but SimCity 4 was still developed by Maxis, I think.
Yeah, it was still by Maxis. That's a big part of it, too, is that Maxis was the company that Will Wright co-founded. They made SimCity. EA bought them in 1997. They put out The Sims under them. And then Will Wright left the company. And then when SimCity 2013 came out, this was like their first big post-Will Wright release. It was like, this is them doing it without their figurehead.
And at this time in gaming, it was getting more and more and more egregious, the degree to which game companies were milking gamers and giving them less and less and less content, right? So they would basically what you would do is you'd have the full picture of the game that you wanted to make in your head, and then the studio execs would come in and they would cut off as much as possible to make the core game that you release that would feel very still and quiet and kind of naked. and then they would sell you all of the other stuff that was supposed to go into the game originally for more money. So by the end of the day, you're not spending $60 on a full game. You're spending $120 on a full game, right? And so when SimCity 2013 comes out, not only did they just chop huge amounts of stuff out of it, they required an always online connection in order to play it. And they said it was because our game it's so complex, your computer can't handle it. It actually needs to talk to our servers in order to handle how complicated our game is. And then it was this huge uproar, and they were like, no. It has to always be online, which is a problem for a lot of gamers who have an unstable online connection, especially in 2013, or people who are overseas, or like, there's a lot of people who are like, I buy a video game before I go get deployed, and I play that when I'm in my free time, and I can't play this fucking game because I'm going to be in, like, Baghdad or wherever, where I'm not going to have a very reliable access to the internet, right?
Yeah. And it's a single-player game. There's not, like, a multiplayer component. There's no reason for it to be online. Yeah, other than this thing they're saying about how, no, we have to offload the resource management to the cloud, basically. Yeah.
Right. There are ways that you can have, like, multiplayer interaction where, like, your city can talk to other cities and stuff like that, but 99.99% of the game is single player. Like, Dark Souls is more of a multiplayer game than this, because Dark Souls, even though it is on its paper, can be played start to finish as a
it's more like social game features. Like, yes. you can tag your friend and they'll send you some money or whatever. Right.
And then the day the game comes out, modders go in and turn off the online play, and it's not an online requirement. They lied to all of the gamers. They just did that so that they could like kind of stop. It's an attempt to get people to stop torrenting the game, right? And so, like, that plus the game maps. So, like, yeah, they lied about how it needed to be online only, because modders went in and instantly realized that they were lying about it. They made the maps like a quarter of the size of the previous game. They took out tons of the different functionalities, and they just released this, like, stripped down bullshit that you could. It was like a phone game.
Yeah, it felt like a mobile game. There was a lot of speculation that some people thought that might have been the case, that started out as like a Sims Mobile or SimCity Mobile, whatever, and then just became a mainline title eventually. Like, it feels like that.
And it was one of those things that, like, I would put it in the category of, what's that game where you can go to any planet except not really?
No Man's Sky?
No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, too, in their defense, has had a completely miraculous post-release support that is, like, turning the game into something super beautiful. And there's actually a really interesting whole story for that, right? But it was a disaster in the way that, like, No Man's Sky was a disaster. It was just, like, totally just annihilated by the reviews. The fans hated it. Everybody hated it. Sold poorly. And the executives were like, well, the only thing I can think of is to do this exact same thing again every single time. And they continued to do that, and the entire industry is in freefall. So
yeah, no,
that's the SimCity story.
Oh yeah, and we haven't had a SimCity game since then. Like, once, like, they were like, we have a roadmap. We're gonna add more stuff, and then they never did, and they just, like, quietly stopped supporting it. And yeah, then an indie game called City Skylines came along, and was the 3D Sims games people wanted. Now it's like a whole cottage industry. There's, like, dozens of indie city building and theme park building games. That's, like, what happened with everything, where now it's just, like, the indie people are taking up these niche genres because the big people just make them into, like, microtransaction factories.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is, we haven't even gotten into, but, like, they milk the fuck out of you with microtransactions, where they'll you know, it's the same thing that's on your phone, where it's like, oh, we made this game insanely hard and you ran out of lives. You either watch, like, 90 seconds of ads, or you pay us $1, and, you know, a dopamine addicted brain will just be like, fuck it, just take the $1. Yeah. And so they do that forever. And now, you know, the budget for making Grand Theft Auto 6 is $2 billion.
Man, think about how many 69 jokes you can make with all that money.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. How many fucking boner and gay jokes can you make with that much money?
We're going to have the most photorealistic caricature of Hillary Clinton and Jack Thompson yet.
Oh boy. And like, this is, we need to get back on topic, but I just need to say this, that like...
Oh, this is a bonus. I'm having fun.
Yeah. When the trailer for the new Grand Theft Auto came out, a whole bunch of gamers got really fucking mad.
No, gamers?
That there's black people in Grand Theft Auto. They made a game about being a criminal, and racists are mad that black people are in it. Bro, what do you fucking believe? Like, you can't have both of these. If you're... All of these fucking racist gamers are just going to be like, oh, statistically, black people commit more crime. And then you make a game about crime and like, what are all these black people doing here? Like, what do you fucking believe, man? You know? Like, if they made, like, a game about, like, lying to men and it had a bunch of women in it and they're just like, what the hell? I don't want to be a man that lies. Like, oh my god. You fucking nerds.
That's hilarious.
It's so frustrating that, like, oh man, I like the Stalker 2 devs just dropped this 35-minute long video showcasing all of the development that they've done on this game. This game that's been in development for ages, man. They announced this shit when I was first moved to Chicago. So it's been in development for years and years and years. And bear in mind, the country that all of the developers are in, I mean, a lot of them have moved since to Prague and to Poland, is Ukraine. They're under fucking attack. People in this dev team have died because of the fucking Russian invasion. And the gamers are still just like, the gun doesn't sound right. Like, the guns look fucking cheap. It's like, dude, one, they're being invaded. Give them a little fucking credit. 2, modders are going to fix all of that day one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it is so frustrating how one of the reasons why video gaming is so poorly documented is because gamers can't handle learning how the sausage is made. Like, anytime there's a big behind the scene thing, I see people misquoting it and misrepresenting stuff in it forever just because, like, they're mad at the developer or whatever. And it's just like that sounds fascinating. Like, a half hour about developing this game that has been under development for like 3 different studios while you're under attack. That's an amazing. I'm glad that's documented. I'm glad that exists. And just look at that and be like, sounds aren't right. This game that isn't finished doesn't sound like how I want it to. It's just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Gaming.
It's a lot.
Well, I guess
it's just the thing where, like, if your target demographic is always going to be 16-year-olds, yeah, it's going to stay stupid forever. And what sucks is that, like, the target demographic for video games is functionally everyone with access to a computer or a game console, right? So anybody with a phone can be a gamer, right? Because there's tons of games on your phone. You can pick up any computer from any thrift store, and you can play thousands of games on it, right? However, the industry is still marketing towards white boys in the suburbs that are 16 years old with disposable income. That's their one fucking perfect thing. And I was a white boy, and I have been 16 before, and I had disposable income. Didn't live in the suburbs, but still. So I know what they're trying to do. And it's just like, for the love of God, can you guys try to target somebody else? You know? I don't know. It's all frustrating.
And then even when it still appeals to people other than that, like, all the Halo super fans I know are trans women, and you better believe Halo fans are very cool. Most of them are very cool about it, but yeah, like, how first-person shooter people can be really shitty about that. So it's just, you can't win either way. But,
it's a lot.
Yeah, I guess before we move on from SimCity, to bring this full forward to our usual internet or history sort of theme, the version of it that I had was the CD-ROM version, which was a thing that when CD-ROMs first became new, that was a thing that games companies would do, is they'd take existing games and re-release them on CD-ROM with like higher quality music, or they put a bunch of video files on it. So the version of SimCity that I had, when events would happen, it would play videos, and a lot of them were very obviously like the developers just goofing around in their offices doing like fake newscasts and stuff. It was very charming. But every now and then, like when you had like pollution problems, since they just grabbed whatever videos were available, they'd have like Greenpeace videos that like as a child were very scary to me. Even as an adult, I'm just like, oh, these are kind of tacky about what they're doing. But it was very funny. It's like having all of a sudden just be like a person in a gas mask in black and white grainy CD-ROM footage, like struggling to find clean air. And I'm just like, I just want to build a city.
That's crazy. I thought they were always on. Well, was SimCity on? Was it just a bunch of floppies when it came out?
The original SimCity, it was originally a floppy disk game, and then it got a CD-ROM release, and that was one of the ways they so that's how old it is.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and also, another thing about the donations is, so you can find in 2008, he donated about $75,000 to the Republican National Convention. You can hire William R. Wright, Vice President, Electronic Arts, which is very funny. He's the Vice President of Maxis, which is owned by Electronic Arts. So much like Scott Cawthon, even when he's incredibly successful, he still has to puff himself up in his donations.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you put your name on in your in your taxes? Like, I just put artist, I guess, but it's hard to not sound.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He gave a lot of money.
Yeah, to the National Republican Senatorial Committee. So this wasn't just like him giving to a single candidate. This was him like actively supporting the machinery behind it as well. And yeah, this was really big because like since gaming wasn't very political, like this was a new thing that this was happening. All of a sudden, people were realizing, oh, the people in this industry are political and they make donations and those can affect things. And just, like when we talk about, people complain about how gaming used to not be political, and it's not that it wasn't, it's just that people didn't criticize it as much. And this is a great example of that. Like Will Wright was giving money to using that game money for political stuff. It's just nobody knew about it.
Right. And like the fact that like all of the green energy solutions in SimCity were like extremely expensive and extremely inefficient.
We're gonna get into that.
Itself like a political statement. And it's like, is that somewhat true in real life? Sure. But like there's ways of, there's like a thorium nuclear reactor that has like minimal waste and absolutely stupendous amounts of like potential power output, right? And because in a min-max in a video game, the logical thing to do would be like, well, thorium is like making this incredibly strong nuclear reactor that's a great way to play the game. So why don't I just do that?
Yeah, but it's like an end game goal you work towards.
Right, but they need to balance it out. Either it has to cost a lot, or there's got to be something in there that like makes it so it's not like the one perfect thing that always works. And so they have to balance it out. And so like, yeah, you would have like way more nuclear waste put out and people would be super mad because their neighborhood's radioactive. And that is, it's a logical decision to make as a game dev. It's also a political thing, Not every single, when people hear like art is political or video games are political, what they seem to think is that there's these devs tenting their fingers going like, we need to put politics into the video games, and it's not that, right?
Inject more wokeness, more. Sir, the reading say it can't handle
turning
anymore.
The dial
Do it.
on wokeness as the machine shakes, and it's not that at all. What it is it's just like, you view the entire world, your life, everybody in it, in a political capacity because you grew up in a world where politics exists, right? Like, it's inescapable. And so all of the things that you make are also going to have a political impact from it. It's political is not just like I made the bad guy a Republican. It's like, why do we have a whole game about relationships but nobody can get gay married?
Exactly.
You're like your idea of like a fully free video game where anybody can be whatever they want, but you can't get gay married. You know what I mean?
This was right after Mass Effect came out. Yeah, the game where you can be a blue space lesbian, but you can't be a gay man.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that anybody listening to this podcast, much less the fucking Patreon, is going to be like, you know, wokeness, you know, but it's just worth talking about, I guess.
Yeah, it really is. And that's one of, you know, I'm glad that this was one of the reasons why I kind of look back on this time fondly, because this was sort of those awkward first steps of that. It wasn't perfect, but it was nice to see people sort of piecing together these things. Yeah, and like at the time, since Spore had come out just a few weeks before this article, and it had really good sales, but it reviewed pretty middling. We talked a little bit earlier about how it was very basically it was Will Wright's narrative for why the game fell short was that EA, the publisher who he sold his studio to in the 1997, was that they meddled with the development to make it more casual and accessible. And they definitely did. There are a lot of stories about that, about them being like, he wanted to make like a sandbox. He wanted to be like an Evolution sandbox. And like, this has to be an actual game. There needs to be like an objective. So there was some friction there. But people who worked on it have said that like the simulation thing just wasn't very fun. That like it was technically impressive, but like people would mess around with it, and then just, you know, there wasn't really much of a game there, so they made these changes. So regardless of who, you know, I don't think any one person was right. I think that's just, he was trying to do something very ambitious, and, you know, I can see how having to make compromises would be frustrating, but also I can see how that ambition might not translate well. It just seems like one of the, like, Spore was one of those things where even before it came out, I remember people being like, okay, this isn't going to live up to hype, you know, prepare yourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like Star Citizen, where it's like, how on earth could you achieve the things that they're actually trying to achieve, right? With any degree of veracity or any degree of like looking good. Like I was watching the Stalker deep dive video the other night, last night, and it looks so fucking cool. The guns sound great. The graphics are really cool. There's so many cool like details in the animations, and the voice acting is really interesting. I kind of like that it's clearly not from native English speakers. It sounds kind of, yeah. So it sounds a little off, and I like that. I genuinely like that. And then when the character reaches down to pick up an item, he just kind of does the video game thing where you have like this, uniquely shaped item, and then his hand just kind of like scoops it up without actually interacting with it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love when that happens.
You need to have one animation that works for picking up a tin can, a loaf of bread, a gun, a bowling ball, and instead of, you know, every way that we would pick those things up is different, right? You pick up a can by grabbing it. You pick up the bowling ball by putting your fingers in it. The bag of bread, you pick it up by pulling on the tied end of it. But they just kind of swoop it up. And that's like, of course, because you don't want to have a special animation that you have to create for every single item, for every single piece in the game. And so it's, what I'm trying to say is like, there is a ever diminishing amount that you can put into games when we get into terms of like intricacy and fidelity, and especially with a game like Spore, where it's like if you add one new piece of how the game works, you have to figure out how that will work literally in the 500 million BC and also in the year 40,000 AD to make it all add up. So yeah, there's a reason why the games that we played as kids felt so big and so deep. It's because they were. And adding new stuff to a 3D, fully beautiful game now requires teams of people to put it all together.
I will say that is a weird thing about Spore. I learned about when I was talking about it with people before. I was like, people younger than us, like who played it when they were kids, tend to think of it very fondly. Like, it seems like kids really liked it as a game. It's just the adults were disappointed in it. And like, which I think that makes sense. So when you're a kid, you are easier to entertain. But also, like, as a kid, I could see it would be a lot of fun to just like, I'm going to make a race of aliens that look like butts, and then I'm going to make a city with them, and then they're going to interact with the aliens that look like poop, and they're going to have a little civilization or whatever. Like, I could see that being like when you're a kid. Like, I feel like The Sims is a very popular game with kids because like when you're a kid, you don't have a lot of control over your own life. So games where you get to sort of have control over a simulacrum of that is very appealing, I feel.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think that all that's really true. Because I remember I remember Spore being a lot of fun because it was just like it's like playing with Legos again. And that's why Minecraft is such a treat. When I first was playing Minecraft, I'm like, holy shit, man. I played with Legos and I only had the Legos I could afford. And now I have this like infinite fucking playground to make all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was just like, it was brilliant. And it all makes sense, you know? I'm really like, that's one of the things that there's a lot of doomers out there, for a million different things, but like, I'm unambiguously glad that young kids today have access to like the fun, silly, free, exploration games that I wish I had as a kid.
Yeah, Minecraft is exactly the game I would have liked when I was a kid. Like you were mentioning, is just that Lego fantasy and like that just playing out in the woods fantasy, sort of all just like rolled into one thing. It's so good, and
it's so cool.
I'm not surprised. In fact, I'm not surprised it stuck around. It's just going to be like a kids game, like for going forward. And it's
fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
and well, I guess on my notes here, I guess we were talking about SimCity earlier. So I guess one of the things that I've because of this, there are some more critical readings of SimCity now. An interesting one I found was from Wired. They found that one of the big influences in SimCity is the book Urban Dynamics by Wright Forrester, who was a libertarian. And his big thing was like back in the 70s, this book came out and he used algorithms to argue in favor of free market city planning. Like I found like in the article, his models that he used would say like raising low income housing would create jobs and economically reinvigorate cities. So he was one of the early people who was like offloading bad decisions onto math, like before they had computers to do it, just being like, I don't know, man, the calculations say this is good for the city. I don't know how many lives it's going to ruin, stuff like that. So, and in SimCity and The Sims, like I mentioned earlier, like those were games that were kind of hailed as sophisticated for taking these complicated, this complicated reality and abstracting it to a point where it's accessible. And then they sort of use irony and satire to sand the rough edges off so it's approachable, but it still demonstrates that knowledge of the subject matter in a way that makes them feel educational. Like the original SimCity manual contained this pages-long essay on the history and fundamentals of city planning. Like these games presented themselves as serious and mature, even if they were also irreverent and playful. Old video game manuals were wild like that. Like that is like, for younger listeners. Yeah, like
I was in a thrift store the other day, and behind glass they had a copy of Silent Hill 2 for PS2. And it was $130, and I'm like, it'd be cool to have. I don't need it, right? I don't have it. I guess I do have a PS2, but I'm not going to be playing it, right?
Yeah.
But the manual for Silent Hill 2 had like art. It was a full color manual with tons of weird art and weird like stylistic decisions that they put into it. And the cover of it was a special piece of artwork that you never see in the game otherwise. Oh,
hell yeah. I love when they do that.
And like the manual for The Sims was like so full of jokes. It was like, it was supposed to be written, like it was written in the voice of like kind of a cynical spinster type of person, I guess. And so like, when it comes to like talking about how to get your Sims to have kids, like it's clearly written by someone who hates kids, which is really funny because it was all very sarcastic. And now, and I've said this before, like I love Stardew Valley, great game, no hate for Concerned Ape. However, I think that if I have to constantly look at a Wikipedia for your game in order to play it, like not even just play it right, but just to like, when the fuck does stuff happen? You're not telling me anything.
Where am I going to find this person at this time of day?
Yeah,
it should really be on the map.
that is a shortcoming on the part of your game. You know what I mean? Like, well, I played through all of the Dark Souls games with, like, minimal interaction with the wiki. And I just, like, played it and figured it out. Best fucking time. It rocked, dude. But, like, there are so many parts of so many games, especially, like, the really more complicated ones these days, that it's just like, oh, well, modders will take care of it and the wiki will be fine. It's like, no, just fucking figure out a way to tell me.
Yeah, and the manuals, and then these manuals too, it wasn't just like telling you how to play the game. They had so much personality and knowledge in them as well that, like, it was an extension of the game as well. Like, I think the one I had when I was a kid that was like something I would, like, carry it in my backpack and read it at school just to read it was the Civilization 2 manual. It was 206 pages long. I just looked up on the archive. And yeah, like, it didn't just tell you about how to play the game. It gave you history about all the civilizations you played as. It had, like, some funny little essays about, like, the role of religion in video games. Like, there was a lot of personality and stuff in it other than just how to play the game. And it was, like, a part of the entertainment of it. And I know now when people make games, that's what social media is. You make fun stuff for the social media instead of for a booklet that you print with it. But that was the fact that was like a thing. Like, when you buy games on GOG.com, good old games, they include, like, the PDFs of the manuals because that was a big part of the experience in learning how to play them. And, you know, it's just one of those intangible things that's not really you have to explain to people because that's just not how things are done anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would read the manual to The Sims. I would hang out and read that, and, like, the manual to, like Red Alert had a bunch of cool art in it, and, like, yeah, it was all just so fucking cool. And now I think it's so fucking sad that a kid today will buy a copy of, like, the new Mario game for Switch, and they open up this thing. They spent, you know, a huge amount of money for a little kid. $60 is, like, how many weeks of chores is that? That's a lot of money. And then they get this thing from the store, and they open it up, and it's just a little chip inside. You put it in, and you play the game. And the interior of the cartridge is completely blank white. They didn't do the thing where they printed art on both sides, so you open it up and it's like a color art piece on the inside. There's no booklet, there's no manual, there's nothing else inside. Maybe there's, like, an ad for something, but it's just like, man, we're asking for, like, a piece of paper. Give me a sticker. Give me fucking stickers. Anything, dog.
It's free marketing. Give them stickers they can put on stuff. I love
fucking for real. That I give out free stickers with every single order on my website, but Nintendo can't.
Yeah, and also, like, there were business reasons for that too. Because, like, one of the reasons why they had these big fancy manuals was as an anti-piracy measure. Because the idea was, like, people can just buy a floppy disk or a disk with your game on it for 99 cents. If they buy the real thing, they get all these. They call them feelies, like the manuals, like a map, a little extra thing. Whereas now they want people to buy them digitally because they don't have to pay a cut of it to retail. So they want to incentivize digital downloads. So it's like, why would you put nice things in the box? It's encouraging them to give money to other people. It's just, it's just how this stuff shapes these things in really depressing ways.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching some video about, like, this guy's, like, showing off his collection of, like, retro games. I guess they're retro. They were shit that came out when I was a kid. But, like, Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, big fucking chunky box with dope art, and then there's a little bit of Velcro on the cover of the box.
War chest, and you open it up.
And it's got, like, all of these cool screenshots, and it tells you, like, you know, like, all of the lore, 19 new units, like, fucking 30 new missions, see the end of the war, and, like, oh, it's so cool. Then you open it up, and there's, like, other stuff inside. Like, fucking, I got The Witcher 2. I got, like, just the sort of fancy edition. Came with a map, came with a DVD, came with a soundtrack, came with a little, a real metal coin from the bad guy in the game that's got a little octopus skull guy on it.
Oh, yeah.
And all of the stuff. It felt fucking real, but, like, it's the thing that's happening to every goddamn company on the planet is they got popular for making good things, and now they're like, well, what if we just chopped everything down at the fucking knees and made the worst possible version of the thing that people love, and then just tell them that this is what they have to deal with.
Yeah, and then the game
I did
fails.
not
We're like, how
expect
could we have
this
seen this
to be
happening?
this. Yeah, I did not expect this episode to have me so fucking riled up, but
No, it's great. Yeah.
yeah.
Here, and I guess to sort of tie back when you were talking about the Sims manual, like that's one of the things about the Republican donations too. Like the Sims, like it's a life simulation where the goal is ultimately to make money so you can buy the best stuff, and like it's presented as satirical, like it's funny, it's tongue in cheek, like the music is like 50s like style, like Leave It to Beaver type stuff. It's presenting as it's sort of like making fun of the concept, but this it's like I don't know, man. Like those are the people you're supporting are people who literally think that is what life is, just getting the most money, like.
Right.
Yeah. Or like in SimCity, the only way you can get a game over is by going too far in debt. Like it doesn't matter how many people die, it doesn't matter how many buildings burn down. If you go $100,000 in debt, you get a little pop-up saying that you might be better suited for other branches of government, and you get a game over. Like,
oh, that's funny. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. God.
Yeah. Yeah, so he never responded to any of those articles, which is like I think that's something about Will Wright that's interesting. Is like he was an established person in the '80s, so he's like in his 50s when this is happening. He's not like an indie guy who's just experienced fame. He keeps his head down. He doesn't make any statements about it. But 6 months later, in April of 2009, he announces that he's stepping away from EA to focus on smaller, more personal projects at a new creative think tank called the Stupid Fun Club, which was co-owned by EA. So he was still working for them and getting paid by them. It was just like, he was doing a quote unquote personal thing. So
move to a different department.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that like the Stupid Fun Club ran for years, and aside from press releases, the only thing they really seemed to accomplish was a 12-episode TV show I'd never heard of before called Bar Karma, where the premise was it was on a thing called Current TV, where the premise was it was basically like internet public access where anyone could submit like a show that would fit in a time slot. So, very, very prestigious. And also the plots were crowdsourced. The premise was they would come up with prompts on their website and people would basically write the plots for them and they'd make shows out of it. So
what you're describing is short form improv.
Yeah, this is like Channel 101 was doing this way better a decade ago with no money.
Yeah. It's amazing how much money can be spent to do literally nothing. Not just a bad thing, but nothing.
Yeah, and it's like that's one of the things that's funny about too is like when someone who is like this like industry titan who's like I'm going to step away and try my new ideas I couldn't try until now and they all suck.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened with Notch. Notch made $1 billion from Minecraft, completely lost his mind, turned into a fucking right-wing freak, and then tried to make other games, and each one is just completely fallen on its ass. So
yeah. God, yeah. I didn't bring up earlier we were talking about Minecraft, but yeah, it's what a mishandling of a gift to humanity right there. You make this game that everyone likes, and they're like, no one's going to want to talk about the person who made it when I'm done with it.
Yeah, it's really funny how we have Elon, Notch, and J.K. Rowling as just like, if you are online too much, it just radiates your brain. Like I know people who are like on the other side of things where they're not turning into Nazis, they're just becoming like the most hostile, unpleasant human beings on the planet because like they wake up and they're just like stuck online and they're in like they can't let an argument die. They have to constantly be screaming, and it's just like, oh boy.
God, yeah, no.
Oh boy.
I'm like one of those ghouls from Fallout. I'm just like walking around this radioactive wasteland. People are like puking and dying. I'm like, sup, smooth skin, having fun.
Yeah, because it heals us. Yeah, that's funny. No, there was I was listening to my buddy Dave's Patreon, and he was talking about like, yeah, this mutual friend who like is being really fucking snotty to me because of politics, and like unfriended me. And I messaged Dave. I'm like, Dave, is it insert name here? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I love the guy. He's nice, but he is out of control. Not gonna name him, but definitely hope that there is something that happens at some point in time in his life that makes him happy and doesn't make him want to scold his best friends. Anyways, Bar Karma.
Yeah. So I guess the last time so this was in it's been like a decade since then. The last time Will Wright made the news was in October of 2022 when he announced Voxverse, a tie-in game for an existing line of NFTs. And this is in 2022, so this is a year and a half after the founding of the Bored Apes Club. NFTs were already like a laughingstock and well on their way out. And here he is. He didn't even create the Vox people. This is just an existing NFT people who are like, we want to make a game. Let's hire this former industry legend to be our games guy. Okay. And the video is so depressing.
In the video, there's like a bunch of like voxelized, kind of Funko Pop looking characters, kind of cube heads a la Minecraft, but with a bit more three-dimensionality. Right in the center, there is one of the guys from Squid Games.
Oh my god, you're right.
To the left is a guy in black metal corpse paint with cat ears. He's got like long blonde hair, but he's definitely wearing corpse paint. And he's got like kind of black metal guy clothes on. Which is like, oh man. I hate the fact that the thing that I care so much about is becoming twee. But it's becoming twee.
Yeah, and also the other people are like an elven lady in a dress and like a guy with a beard. So this is just like, it's all over the place. It's just kind of not in a good way like Spore.
It's this thing that I don't know what we could pin it on, but I think it's kind of like a Marvel thing where like I really like the first Marvel movies, like Iron Man and Captain America. I thought those were good. And then I liked the first Avengers movies. And then I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'm like, this shit sucks. Oh, I hated it so much because it's a fucking talking raccoon and like an alien lady. And it's just like wisecracking, completely different tone. And then they have them all live together in the next movie. And then they have another movie that's even more ridiculous and even more cartoony. And then they all add them together. And it's the kind of the Fortnite thing where like, I'm playing Fortnite and I can be Metal Gear Solid Snake, or I can be Goku or Mia Khalifa, or, you know, like Heinrich Himmler, or like just any fucking character. We're all smashed into the same universe, and it's like, does no one care about tone?
Exactly. Yeah. Like we don't want to alienate anyone, so we're just going to put everything in this.
Yeah, this is a game where anything. I don't want a game where anything can happen. I want a game where the right thing happens, or like an interesting thing happens. I don't like. If I was playing a game and then like suddenly I'm like in space, like it started off as like I'm like a hard-boiled detective, and then suddenly I'm on the moon fighting Martians. I'm like, this is fucking stupid, man. If I'm playing Wolfenstein, and then suddenly
Wolfenstein was the doctor.
I'm on Venus shooting space Nazis, fine, because it's been a crazy game the whole time. But like, you know, this is just schlock.
Yeah,
like, all of those fucking games where it's like Funko Pop, everything can happen, all of the characters are here. It's all just schlock.
Yeah, like what it makes me think of is like in like the 90s, like when they were making like 3D platformers and stuff, that was kind of a thing, was like when you didn't want to have like a consistent theme, you just have portals. You'd be like, oh, there's a portal at the end of the level, you jump in the portal, you come out a completely different area next time. We don't have to have a theme, we don't have to have a consistent, we can just do whatever, we can do portals. Like, or even before, like the original Quake, literally this had different people make each act. It'd be like, it has to end with them grabbing a rune and going in a portal. Like, everything is just portals now. It's just everyone getting portaled into one big arena so everyone can do stuff together. And it's like, I don't know, man, like the portals only work if you care about where they're coming from and where they're going. If it's just everyone going in a big arena, it's like, I don't care, man.
Yeah, I think like Earthworm Jim, where like one level you're in hell and then the next level you're fighting a snot monster on Mars. And it's like, what's the story of this game?
I know the story about the creator of Earthworm Jim, Doug Tonapel. It does not end well.
Well, that'll be another episode.
Yeah, maybe. Because, he did have a Kickstarter, so it's online. But yeah, so also, if I think about Voxverse, there's been no news of this game since its announcement almost 2 years ago. The company YouTube channel that video with Will Wright is from, I looked it up, and it looks like this now. It's all like
Blockchain, yeah, it's all just like crypto shit.
This like buff like Bull VTuber talking about they call him Crypto Bull, and he's just like, here's my news about like crypto.
Back in the day, scams were fun, and now it's just all like, it's like people are trying to sell you 100,000 cupcakes a day, and you're just having to like these big, bright, colorful bullshit things that are going to poison you, and it's like, dude, just, I don't know, steal my credit card information. Do something. Don't do this, like, AI-generated schlock stuff,
Yeah, and also they have, like, 415 views, 543 views.
Oh, man. And most of that is just, like, YouTube background radiation of, like, unattended children watching random videos as they pop up.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably why we haven't seen much of Will since then. Like, the checks probably stopped clearing, Yeah, like I was like, since he's an older person, like he doesn't use social media. There's not much about him. I can't find really much about him since all this happened. So I couldn't find anything on him social media, like complaining about it. But just is someone looking out, I think, as a comparison to Scott Cawthon, that's just very interesting about how someone who didn't this feels like he didn't have much of a personal like consequence for this, like publicly. Like I feel like people don't really know about this. Like on a professional level, I do wonder if maybe this was like a bunch of people being like, I don't know. Like I feel like that was kind of like a scales falling from the eye moment, especially after this game came out. Because like this guy who could seemingly do no wrong puts out a game that a lot of people aren't happy with, and then has this embarrassing political stuff about him come out all at the same time, and he just never recovers from it.
Right. Yeah, side note, I have now started slowly leaving snarky comments on Mandalore gaming videos because of the Brigador thing.
Hell yeah.
There was one where, like, all of the enemies in this game were, like, Nazis and like racist freaks, and I just said, wow, you fight Nazis and racist freaks? It's cool that you get to fight the entire Brigador gaming or Brigador development team. And one of the comments is just like, I loved Brigador. Brigador was great. Like, okay. All right.
God, that reminds me. His most recent video he put out was on Darkest of Days, which is the game that Gauss worked on before Brigador. And I'm like, is he just taunting me at this point? Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't watch them. I just know because I saw someone posting about it. That was very, very funny. Yeah, just I like how often this game industry sort of thing keeps coming up. Just yeah, no, I'm glad that that's one of the reasons I was kind of.
Let the record state, I am absolutely going to live and die a little stinker. I'm a little stinker to the fucking ends of the earth, man.
Oh, hell yeah. Same. Just...
You get it.
Yeah, gosh. I guess, so just as a closing note here, one funny thing I found was I mentioned earlier the video game industry has a lobbying group, the Entertainment Software Association. I found out that they donated to several Republican candidates in this same election without receiving nearly as much scrutiny. Like Game Politics earlier in 2008 dug up their political donations that the ESA had made, and it spread around. Like they donated like $2,000 to Mitch McConnell, they donated to John Kerry, they donated to Lamar Smith, Republican in Texas, and Republican Tom Feeney in Florida. Like they mostly were Democrats, but they were giving money to Republicans too. And I thought that was kind of fun foreshadowing for the modern day, because the ESA, like back then, the ESA was kind of like, they're the people protecting us from Hillary and Jack Thompson. They're fighting for us gamers. And now they're kind of rightfully seen as a slimy industry lobbying group. Like they supported PIPA. They oppose right to repair rules because of piracy concerns. Like they're just stuff like that. And of course, now gaming is trying to unionize, so people are rightfully even more skeptical and critical of these industry groups. So I just think this is sort of fun. Sort of this is the next villain appearing at the end of the story.
Yeah, look. Sorry, I'm playing with the prosthetic legs on my wall, so if it sounds like I'm playing a xylophone, that's what that is. The listeners don't know where I am right now, and that's very funny. There's the prosthetic legs on my wall. I fucking hate the Republicans to the ends of the earth for sure. But I think that there are a couple times where, like, the Democrats, for video games, have been worse in ways. You know, like, I mean, Tipper Gore and like a whole bunch of like the censorship shit, and like, you know, Hillary Clinton has been like super pro censorship for a lot of that stuff in the gaming world for a while. So it's like I'm not saying that that the Republicans are better, I guess. I'm saying that, like, oh, I get that if your business and your bottom line is making video games and you're watching like congressional hearings about Mortal Kombat and you're like seeing these your colleagues getting eviscerated every night and blamed for fucking Columbine and all of this shit, it would be like, well, fuck y'all. I'm going to vote for whoever kicks your ass. I don't even care. Like, I get where they're coming from. It's not a choice that I would make, but yeah. I do get it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they're an industry group. I get that. And I mean, plus, like, you know, you do not have to hand it to the Democrats, like, obviously, like...
Yeah, under no circumstances do you have to hand it to the Democrats. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was 2008, so I feel like this was kind of a time when people were broadly, like, united in support and that. So those lines sort of stood out a bit more there.
Yeah, that was before all of our brains were cooked completely. That was just when we were starting to sizzle.
In here, just before I forget that train of thought, when you were talking about those hearings, that was a funny thing about those like early 90s Mortal Kombat hearings. It's very funny is that Nintendo was throwing the other companies under the bus when those were happening. Like, I've watched the hearings, and the Nintendo representative was like, Nintendo makes games for families. We would never allow this filth on our consoles. Like, they were like basically like self-promoting instead of like helping the industry. It's a very weird moment for the industry and like American politics. I love that whole case so much.
Yeah, it's just... I want to meet one honest person. You know what I mean? Like, after dealing with all this and like, there's all this other like drama in my professional world right now, not involving me, just involving other assholes being like really deceitful and fucking over other people in like the morbid art world. It's just like, I just want to meet one person who is like, has a principled opinion and stands for it and doesn't try to do the most like conniving possible definition of it. You know what I mean? But man, this is a hell of a Patreon episode. This is insane. We both went off on like
two-part Patreon episode.
Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, this might be something that will eventually unlock as a Patreon. As a main
I don't
episode.
like to call my shots, but I felt like this one might be a main feed worthy one eventually. Yeah. So that's why I didn't mind it going a little long.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, shit, man. If you have anything else to add, what do you got?
That's about all I have about Will Wright and all this stuff. I guess it's interesting to see that like this had consequences, because I feel like also to do is I feel like he's never really tried to like. I feel like if this had happened now, there'd be like that machinery in place to just become like a cancel culture guy or whatever. And the fact that he was just like, you know, I'm not gonna make this my whole identity. I'm just gonna duck out and try and do stuff. Like one of his things that he does is he was like a big robot wars guy. He would make robots for like fighting each other. He's really into robots because he's an engineer. So like, a lot of the stuff he's into now just seems to be stuff that is outside of gaming and the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's the thing where like, you know, you can have some like fucking like Sneeko or any of these other like Twitch pedophiles that are like just these total fucking creeps, and they'll say like Sneeko is like has an IQ of like 38. Like he can barely function, and you know, and if you ever say anything about, hey, like, you remember when Sneeko just, like, comes up and says, like, I am a pedophile, I want to have sex with children, and then his fans will be like, yeah, well, you think that men are women. It's like, oh, my God. I can't have conversations with any of you morons. Yeah. No, Sneeko's one of the funniest people on the internet because he's, like, it's like, he's so good at being stupid, it's almost like a smart person was writing him as a character. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I feel like there's like a whole cottage industry of that, of like streamers that are really stupid, gross people that people watch because they're stupid and gross. Like him, Asmongold, Darkside Phil. Like,
oh god, Asmongold. Fucking
people on Something Awful love those people so much because it's like I don't even have to go out of my way to find someone to make fun of. They make it for me. Like
right. this dude covered in cockroaches talking about trans people. Yeah, no thanks. Yeah. Well, that's great. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening on the Patreon. This is very fun. Tell your friends about us. You know where to find me, Winslow Domain, everywhere except Instagram, where my name is Calculations. I got some new stuff that I just made. I got some new stuff coming soon. New weird signs and pins and stickers and shit like that. I'm just last night ordered some of the stuff for my big rebrand. I'm really excited for that. So just check all that shit out and go to my website and, tell your friends about us.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm jaybrandstetter pretty much everywhere. I have my Discord. I mentioned to Winslow earlier, I said a thing once that was pretty funny since we were talking about like people having like, once I had my Discord once where it was like a guy in my serious, we have like a thing for serious discussions, and the guy was like, having a very heartfelt conversation about like his wife going through a midlife crisis, and we were all supporting and talking. And in the general chat, there's like a literal high schooler is like, yo, I got into AP calculus. And it's just like, that's what makes it, the fact that I can have like a parent with a teenage child and a actual high schooler in the same Discord and everyone gets along, and that's what makes me feel really good. Like, I don't know, I'm really lucky to have those people. They're really interesting creators and stuff. So yeah, and I'm that, and also I'm working on my book. I'm almost done with the rough draft. Since you mentioned Brigador earlier, I guess I can mention the title on here because it kind of ties into the title is the Obregar Triptych, and Obregar is Brigador without the D, and that's kind of that's kind of what this is. It's like dark science fiction military, but it also has furries in it. So it's me kind of doing yeah, and it's also it's going to be really weird. I'm not expecting a lot of people to like it, but it's a very fun to write, and it's finding it to be very personal. So it's interesting. I'm enjoying it.
That's great, man. Well, again, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about us. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Yep, and if this makes the main feed, and if you liked it, check out our Patreon. You can pay anything to have access to the feed, and we usually put out one of these after every main episode. Maybe not as long as this, but they're usually we usually have fun.
Yeah. I'm From the Internet is created by Jay Brandstetter and Winslow Domain. Edited by Steve Brown. Music by Steve Is Broke.